Hi, my name is Emma, and instead of doing an armchair BA video today, I'm going to review some books. I am not doing an armchair BA video today because I don't think I have a lot of interesting things to say about the topics, so I'm going to link down some people who do have lots of interesting things to say about the topics, but instead I'm going to review a couple books that I've read recently. One I really loved, and one that I didn't really love, and it's so hot in here. Oh my god, it's so hot in here. Let's see I don't faint during this. Okay, so the two books that I read, the one that I loved was Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery, and then the one I didn't love was A Visit from the Goon Squad by Jennifer Egan. So I'm going to talk about the one I didn't love, and we can end on the one I did love. So A Visit from the Goon Squad won the Pulitzer Prize in 2010. And basically, it is a really weird postmodern book that follows a bunch of different characters and their lives as they intersect, most notably Benny, who is an aging punk rocker who now is a record producer, his assistant Sasha, who's a kleptomaniac, and basically these people's families and friends, and everybody's super interconnected. Okay, so let's first off talk about the things I did really like. I loved the writing style. I actually really liked the format of this book. I thought it was really interesting. It does not follow a linear or chronological pattern. It jumps through time, and you get to read about a lot of different characters, which I like. It also doesn't stick with any sort of narrative voice, so you go from first person to second person to third person, which I liked, and then of course the infamous PowerPoint presentation chapter. In general, I thought it was really innovative and interesting and cool, and I flew through the book. I read it in like a day. It was a very quick read, and that's what I really liked. I liked the writing style. I liked the way Jennifer Egan wrote. What I didn't like, and I didn't even mind the story. I didn't even mind that there wasn't a real plot. I didn't even mind that there wasn't a plot to follow because it was very character driven. The problem was I did not care about any of the characters, at all. I wouldn't have cared if anything happened to them. I felt emotionally numb through this entire book, and it kind of made me depressed and bummed out, and I sort of had this off night because of it. I found that the characters were lacking humanity. It felt like they were sort of New Yorker cartoon sketches of New Yorkers, if that makes sense. They felt like she was trying to make them so quirky and so different and weird that they lost any sort of sense of humanity and any sense of tangibility. There were a couple characters who I did like. I like the character of Mindy, who, if you've read the book, she is a character. I won't spoil it, but she is a character. I liked her character, and I like Sasha's character all right. There are certain characters that I was like, okay, yeah. But in general, I just found that most of the characters, and there's so many characters in this book, just didn't do it for me. Jennifer Egan didn't make me love them. Jennifer Egan didn't make me feel anything about them. It's just a really fast read, which I really did like, but I just didn't care about the characters. And I also found that I have learned this now. I don't do well with modern books set in New York City I just can't. If that makes sense. Literary fiction about angsty New Yorkers is something that I cannot deal with, unless it's historical fiction, like something like Amazing Adventures of Cavalier Clay, which is really exciting and weird. I can't deal with it. I find that I can't connect with characters at all, or their situations, and it's just hard for me to get into those books. For some reason, it's always New York City, and it's always, if that makes sense, it's like I'm an artsy New Yorker, and I have a drug problem, and and I just can't get into that, and I can't connect with my wife or whatever. I don't know. It's just not something I can get into. I will say that I can recognize the talent of Jennifer Egan, and I think that she's a really great writer. I just didn't like it. I didn't like the characters, and that's a huge thing for me. So, that book. I'm sure I'll get a lot of hate because a lot of people love that book. But guys, different strokes for different folks. The other book that I read and adored was Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery. I've had this book for literally years, and I finally read it, and I'm so glad I did. I love this edition. It's a little Puffin Classics. It's so cute. Everyone knows Anne of Green Gables. It's about Anne of Green Gables. Anne is an orphan that goes to live with Marilla and Matthew in Prince Edward Island in the turn of the century of Canada. I believe it's the turn of the century. It is such a wonderful read. The writing is beautiful. I've read one other book by L.M. Montgomery, which is The Blue Castle, which is a really wonderful book. And I love her writing style. It's lyrical without being too flowery. It's impactful. This book made me laugh. Anne's narrative voice is something that is so realistic to me because I was that kid. I was a complete weirdo with this big imagination. I didn't have any siblings close in age to me, and I have a lot of like friends who live close to me, so I had this huge imagination. And I was also a kid who loved to talk and loved to use big words and loved to just like act like a little grown-up. And I was like, yes, Anne, I feel you. This book has so much joy in it. The characters are beautifully crafted. They're full of heart. The book has bad things that happen, but there's always a sense of optimism, and I found that to be more realistic. I think maybe that's my privilege, but I honestly think that more good things happen than bad things, I guess. And I guess that's sort of comparing these two books where a lot of bad things happen and mostly good things happen. And there are bad things that happen, but the characters get through it, and there's a sense of this ability to overcome, which I really, really like about this book. And I think it's a really important message, and I think it's a message that's how it's a, you know, it's a good mindset to be in if you can be in that mindset. That's completely off topic, but I just really love this book. I love Dan, I love Marilla, I love Matthew, I love her relationship with Diana. It is a complex, beautiful female friendship. It's one where they don't fight, they're not petty towards each other, and they just love each other and respect each other and build each other up, and I love that. And I was rooting for Anne the entire time, and I was rooting for Gilbert, who I was like, oh, Anne, Gilbert, yes, be together. In general, this book is so delightful and beautiful. It made me cry, it made me laugh. Anne is so funny and says things that I just feel are very true. It's just a really wonderful book, and I can't gush about it enough, and if you haven't read it, and if you're interested, I would give it a go. It was well worth it. It's also a pretty quick read. It wasn't too arduous or hard to get through. But I think the main difference between a book like Anne of Green Gables and a book like A Visit from the Goon Squad is this felt much realer to me. I grew up in a rural part of South Carolina, and I love nature, and I love being outside, and I hate cities, and I found that like this book connected with me more as someone who finds such peace and joy in nature and peace and joy in her family and has such a close relationship with her family, whereas my experience with this was I have, you know, these people mostly didn't have good relationships with their family or their friends, and I have that, and I also don't live in a city, and I don't like living in cities, so I really came from a place where it was really hard for me to connect with one of these books because of my experience. So I don't know if that makes any sense, but tell me what you think. Have a wonderful day.